Hello, and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. Friends, happy summer. We are talking all this summer about manager enablement, leadership development, and just how to work better at work. And, this is one of those episodes where I feel like we get to peel the onion back just one more layer. And let's talk about better understanding every single person that's on your team. And how do you do that? My special guest actually has a very unique way of tackling this topic in particular. And I can't wait for you guys to meet him. His name is Scott Wood, and he is the Vice President of Training Solutions for IFI Training. Now, Scott's been working in the corporate training arena for well over 36 years now. He's delivered over 1,800 workshops in 250 companies and government organizations. He really engages audiences with keynote speeches that move people to act. He's also the author of a book called Jungle Motives, which is a personality assessment and has helped develop dozens of exercise-based workshops in leadership, communication, and business development. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Scott Wood. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I am so delighted that you're here. Now, you and I first met through the North Texas SHRM annual conference, which feels like it was ages ago, but such a great experience. And thank you so much for having me out to speak at that conference.
We loved having you speak, and you did an absolutely fabulous job. And we really appreciate the good note that you added to our conference.
Yeah, thank you for that. And, I really am so excited to talk to you about your book, Jungle Motives. Now, for someone who is absolutely brand new to it, what is the core idea behind the book? And specifically, how do animal personality types help us better understand the people that we work with?
Well, back in 2005, we were putting on a leadership development program for one of our large clients, and we needed a personality piece. We were talking about customer intimacy specifically for them. They were trying to improve their entire business development professionals, just up their game on creating a better customer intimacy for their clients, and so we needed a piece. My background is psychology. They kind of duped me into getting a bachelor's in psychology. I can't remember the specifics, but somebody lied to me or didn't tell me the full truth. Because, you get a bachelor's degree in psychology, you can't do anything with it. I can't even coach my kids. It's just embarrassing. Bachelor's of psychology is about the most worthless degree. But I went through it. I got a bachelor's. I'm very familiar with a lot of the personality assessments out there, Myers-Briggs and DISC and color code and whatnot. There's hundreds. There was one thing wrong with every assessment. They were either too complicated, they were too costly. I didn't like the colors, because if I say I'm a blue, what is that? Are you depressed? I'm sorry you're depressed. No, that's not what it means. So I set about developing our own personality assessment, and the thought came to use animals because we know animals. Animals have a natural personality that we identify very quickly with. And so I created Jungle Motives with 4 animals. And one of the things that I wanted that was different about this assessment than some of the other assessments is I did not want the assessment to be about behavior. Because quite honestly, we behave in different ways for different reasons and at different times. And so I wanted to go a layer deeper than behavior to motive, which is why we call this Jungle Motives. So it's really about what drives you, what sticks with you and your kind of your core motive throughout your life. And so that's what Jungle Motives was based on. 4 animals, a bear, monkey, horse, and jungle cat, and their 4 motives that kind of drive those 4 animals.
Okay, great. So let's actually simplify down kind of high level each of those 4 types, if you would. Start with bear.
Okay, so bears, their core motive is balance. If you think about a bear in nature, they're very even. They're plodders. They're not quick animals. They're kind of at the top of the food chain from the aspect that they are very creative and very intellectual. And bears have very quick minds. Their minds are always going. Almost all of our great inventors that we know and that we're using technology today from were bears.
Okay. And then monkeys.
So monkeys are about enjoyment. Like you think of a monkey, they are very spontaneous. Their core motive that drives them is enjoyment. They suck the marrow out of life. They enjoy everything that they do. They make things fun. If it's not fun for them, they go and do something else.
And then the horse.
Horses are herd animals, and their core motive is connection. So they love to be around other horses. Oftentimes, if you see a horse pasture, you'll see acres maybe, and two or three horses will be within 10 feet of each other. They really like that, the connection. So that core connection is what horses are about.
And finally, jungle cats.
Jungle cats, their core motive is control. So they are kind of, if you think about your alpha personalities, jungle cats, top of the food chain, very strategic in all they do, natural leadership, natural vision, but that core motive of control. They like to be in control. And if they're out of control, things are out of whack for jungle cats.
So I think that's so interesting. And again, it's just a new lens to really dive deeper in your own self-awareness of you as a leader, but each of your people that are on your team, if you have direct reports. It just gives another layer, another flavor of understanding diversity and, you know, that not everybody thinks and reacts and, you know, acts just like me. So, Scott, I'm going to take a guess that you are a monkey. Is that true?
You know, I'm glad you say that. Monkey, I am not a monkey.
Interesting.
Although I try, and when I train, people always say I'm a monkey because I train like a monkey. And when I teach, when I talk, when I speak, I really like the monkey because they're spontaneous, their energy. And that's one of my goals is to be energetic. My father, who's passed away many years ago, used to say, I would rather be an energizer than a tranquilizer. Or an evangelizer. I'd rather be an evangelizer than a tranquilizer. And he was always about energy. And so I do teach and train like a monkey, but I'm actually a horse.
Interesting. So with that, you and I had a conversation offline and you had said to me that like sometimes people use talent assessments in the complete wrong way. Where do leaders go wrong when they use personality data like this to decide who actually fits a role?
Well, the two big mistakes that I see as people use personality assessments is one, they're using that to identify what a person's strength or what they're good at. And while that may be helpful in choosing a role for them, that's in a lot of cases that pigeonholes that person and they can't develop. The thing that I'm good at may not be the thing that I'm passionate about. Yeah. Those are two different things. And so sometimes we put people in a spot based on what they're good at, but that doesn't allow for growth or personal development. Then the second thing that I see, a mistake that a lot of leaders, a lot of managers make, is they try and select people that are like them. And so a jungle cat will try and naturally choose a jungle cat because they get them, right? I understand them. But I think just with the little information I've given you, you can see that a room full of jungle cats usually ends up, there's a lot of fur flying. So that's
tear each other apart. Yeah.
Usually a bad thing. And that's where diversity comes in. You've got to select people based on rounding out a team so that you've got other perspectives and other personalities, other ways of seeing things.
I certainly can attest to that. I started the Simplifiers way back when, 2003. And, for the first 4 years, I was able to manage it almost as a solopreneur with a handful of contractors. And then year 4, I was like, holy smokes, I really do need full-time staff and a team. And I made the foolish error in that first round of hiring and looking for talent to just go like, I just need clones of myself. Like if I could just clone me, I need 1 or 2 more Marys. And then, man, we could do 3x the work, right? And that ended in a disaster. What I did learn over time is this, you're absolutely what you're saying is the diversity of thoughts and background, introvert versus extrovert, a real variety in the room actually helped us innovate. It helped us, really drive sales and have a more diverse platform of clients and customers as well. It really was the secret to the Simplifiers' growth in those early days.
Yeah. You've got to have that diversity of thought, diversity of looking at things from different perspectives. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that over and over. We used to work with a company that had really weeded out monkeys. And I will tell you, just from all the organizations that I work with, monkeys probably get the short end of the stick. I think companies value them the least because they're more social. They are mistaken as lightweights, which is a complete mistake. But because their core motive is enjoyment, right? Well, yeah, I don't want people about enjoyment. I want people, more driven or more. No, we have taught at organizations that have weeded out the monkeys, and I did not want to ever teach there again.
Well, I mean, I imagine that people that get labeled as a monkey or something along those lines is also sort of labeled as the culture hire, right? The fun person on the team that lessens the stress and high pressure of the space. And, coming from an employee experience background, culture is incredibly important. Belonging and community and, building that trust among the teams. You need that in a dynamic, thriving team. You can't cut that out because we're not robots. We are, in the end of the day, communal humans that like to connect, right?
Exactly. And every animal, and especially monkeys, have the ability to connect, and they're natural team builders. Mm-hmm. They'll rope people in, and they see when somebody's excluded, and they'll pull them in. So they're your natural team builders. And if you don't have those people in the mix, culture is going to be just not fun, but also you'll never reach the potential it could be.
So then let's pivot a little. How can leaders separate personality from capability, especially if someone has the right potential, but still needs better skills or training or support? What's your thoughts there?
Well, and personality is the only, we have we have 3 lenses that we look at people.
Okay.
One is personality. And personality gets a lot of attention because it's the only one that's innate. You come with it. You come hardwired. And children are different in the womb. My wife has had 5 kids. I have 12 grandkids. And all of my kids and my wife have all identified different personalities before the kid ever comes out. And so it is innate. It's with you. It's the one thing that kind of sticks with you throughout life. Not that it can't change. It can, and sometimes I've seen that change. But the other 2 aspects are perspective and character. And those 2 change, those 2 come with where you're born, how you're born, when you were born, how you were raised, your family, what your family values, those kinds of things. So personality really is kind of the root because you come hardwired with it. And it's important from that standpoint.
So when you're thinking about like either hiring a person or even promoting them into another role, can you speak more into, is your personality really kind of pigeonhole you to in specific roles, or is there something that's bigger than that can be, help you as a leader go, I wonder if Mark is ready for this next step. Is your thoughts there when it comes to assessments like this?
Yeah, that again, it helps to know that core motive. And one of the
Mm,
common mistakes that people have, that managers have, is thinking that a person who's good at one role, and this I see this with engineers. We've worked a lot with engineering and tech professionals, and those tend to be bears. A lot of
mhm,
bears tend to go into those fields, and accountants also fit into that. But if they're really good at their job, we tend to say, oh, well, what's the next thing? Well, we promote you. So we give you responsibility over other things. Well, bears, again, they're about balance. And
mm,
sometimes promoting them and putting them in a management role, that's not where they want to be. I mean, some do, some don't. You can't force that on people. And here's the really cool part about personality is there is growth. You
mm,
change. And one of the reasons why we made Jungle Motives free is because your personality changes. And you ought
mm.
to be able to take an instrument as many times as you want. And we even encourage people to take Jungle Motives both at work with that work hat on and your work roles, and then at home in a different setting because you may be a different animal, or at least have different percentages. And that there's the other thing is that you are a percent. You, Mary, are
Mhm.
a percent of all four animals. I've never seen
Yeah.
an assessment where there's been a zero on an animal. And so you're a percent of all four. You've got a primary, and you've got usually people have a pretty strong secondary animal, but I've got even the third and fourth piece, and I can develop those other pieces to add that kind of. I put on a different skin. So if I'm dealing with a jungle cat as a horse, I need to put on that jungle cat skin. I learn new skills. I adapt. And as we do that, we take on more of those characteristics. And that's how you build a very well charactered person, by taking on the strengths of other animals.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question is I think it's really interesting when you say move into a new company, brand new people, brand new culture to you, and you're sort of dropped into that petri dish. There is a certain level of like assessing the people around you and, maybe even a bit of mirroring to just be
Yeah.
able to find your way to belong, right? So that you're not the oddball that's been thrown into the petri dish. So that was my going to be question is like, can you take on the personality traits or aspects of the others around you, in a bit of fluidity to it and not so rigid, like I'm only this, I will always be this for the rest of my life. Right.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you brought that up because an organization, companies have personality. They have an
Mm,
animal motive, and we've worked with companies. We've worked with a lot of defense contractors. Tend to be more jungle cat, right?
mm,
They're about control. Worked with one of the biggest defense contractors that where the CEO didn't want the company to be jungle cat. He wanted it to be horse. And
mm,
so he implemented something called full spectrum leadership, which was all horse values. It was customer intimacy. It was about uh, quality. It was about caring. It was about not that those things aren't important to jungle cats, but all of those things are more horse. And that it was interesting as we worked with people at high levels in that organization. We saw almost a skew where when they were taking it at their business, they always skewed to Jungle Cat
mm,
because the company was Jungle Cat. And so you do tend to take on those characteristics, knowing that that's where management is, and that's where I need to be to kind of have that upward mobility. If that's important to you, then you're going to take on those personality traits of the organization. And I think that's unfortunately where, and this is maybe too deep for this show, but that's where some divorces come in. You've got
mm,
a person that works at an organization that is different from your personality, you take on those characteristics year after year, and suddenly you're a different person.
Yeah.
And you're maybe not the person that I married. And so that's where a lot of people need to just understand what's taking place
Yeah.
and understand why that is and where you go as far as developing that new relationship with a different personality.
That's right. And that's what all assessments really are at the core and the heart of it is awareness. It's simply allowing you to see some of your blind spots so that you can make the next right decision, whether it's leadership development strategy that you're planning for your teams, or even just sort of taking your own assessment of who you are and where you are in your career and in this role. Well, it's so interesting when you mentioned, and it kind of clicked on a light bulb for me to think about those four different animal types for your organization as well. And I'm sure there's lots of people that are listening right now going, I wonder what my company is. Because we've certainly all worked in places that were a lot more cutthroat than other places, or places where they really do value community and belonging and connection more than other places, right?
Right.
So I do think that's so interesting. And by the way, everybody that's listening, anything that we talk about today on this episode, you can find all of these resources over at the show notes at thesimplifiers.com. So especially if you're driving right now or on a treadmill, don't worry, we got you. Just go over to thesimplifiers.com. And an aside on that is there will be a link for you to take the Jungle Motives personality assessment, totally free quiz. So you can actually go figure out what you are too, and take a look at it and go, does this hold truth, or is this something that's showing me something of my blind spots, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's about understanding, and we like to say that understanding is the antidote for a divisive world. The more I understand other people and why they do what they do, I'm able to form a healthier relationship with them. I respect them for who they are, not wanting them to be somebody else. And I start looking at the strengths they bring to any given situation. And that's where value comes in. And I start creating that respect and trust that we want from all of our relationships.
And ultimately, this helps us better understand our team, every single person on the team when you do that. So let's say the team goes off, they click on the link, they do the personality assessment, they go, oh my God, we've got a whole room of bears and one monkey in the house. Uh-oh, what do we do? What would you give as advice? What should they actually do with that information so that it improves communication or trust or the culture around them or even drive performance? What would you recommend?
Well, the obvious is the more you can diversify the team in bringing in other pieces. I mean, do that, right? Because you've got to have control as part of a drive. You've got to have connection. It's not always just about the balance. You've got to have enjoyment. But one of the things that the assessment does, and Jungle Motives does in general, is it gives me a way to communicate more effectively with other people. And so if you've got a lot of time, I can't tell you how many times I was teaching a group technical writing. So we were teaching technical writing. We'd have probably 80% of the room were bears. Adjust what you do to the bear. And one of the things I would do as a trainer with a room full of bears, my normal when I train, I've got a meter that is kind of set on comfortable for how long the silence is. And in a mixed room, normally I'll give an interaction as one of those key points when we teach presentation skills. It's the missing piece. We don't really factor in interaction. And I think a lot of people shy away from interaction because they're afraid of silence. I'm going to ask a question and then I'm going to get crickets. Well, yeah. So if I ask a question and I get crickets, I don't jump in there and answer my own question. It's like playing tennis with yourself. As soon as I hit a ball across the net, I just sit back and wait. But when I'm dealing with a room full of bears, my normal kind of comfort level with silence is 3 or 4 or 5 seconds. When I get in a room full of bears, I adjust that knob up to my comfort level of being 8, 9, or 10 seconds. So I'm actually just comfortable with silence for a lot longer because bears, at really active minds, not much coming out of the mouth, right? They're not
Mm,
real verbal.
mm,
And you've got to give them more time to prepare their thoughts to engage. So you just sit back and wait,
mm.
you know, and eventually that they'll engage. And when they do, you get amazing stuff, but it takes them longer. So if I understand my whole group are bears, maybe I develop a better system of sharing. Maybe it's not verbally, maybe it's in writing, because bears are better at sharing written communication than they are verbalizing. So maybe
Yeah.
that's the way that we allow them to communicate. And when we are together, we're much more comfortable with silence with bears.
And I love this as a tool, and I can see a opportunity in place for anyone that's listening right now, to go take the personality assessment, but do it as a team. Like, do it at your next weekly,
Yeah.
team meeting, and go, "Hey, I heard this podcast. I would be so curious to see. Let's take 5 minutes each and do the quiz." And have a conversation on it. And then that becomes a through line of manager training and development. And then if you're like, okay, we need to go deeper, then you, of course, can contact Scott and he can do some extra training with your
Yeah.
teams in house. Again, you can find all of the resources over the show notes over the simplifiers.com, but you can also find this book at junglemotives.com. And that's where the assessment and the personality quiz is as well. So, Scott, as we wrap up, and it's so interesting, I really, really am excited to kind of see who comes to the test and connects with you in the coming weeks after this episode goes live. I got a couple of questions I like to ask everybody that comes on the podcast. Rapid fire, here we go.
Okay.
First off, what's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
I am just at the very tail end of reading Confronting Evil by Bill O'Reilly.
Mm.
He has the Killing series, and I usually read the Killing series. This Confronting Evil is a very interesting book because he deals with some of the most evil people on earth. And one of the takeaways for me as I'm just reading the afterword and some of the notes is that we live in a place where if you shield yourself, if I only surround myself with people that have my same perspective,
Mm.
and again, this is a manager that's hiring all people that are alike. Um, that's a recipe for disaster. Or if
Mm.
I'm only surrounding myself with people that are afraid of me or not, that won't give me the truth, that's where things go horribly awry. Uh, we are a society of where diversity matters, and diversity it's not skin color, it's not sexual preference or any of those things. It's perspective. It's personality. It's how you see the world, and acknowledging that everybody's got a unique personality. Everybody is different in how they've lived their lives, and we have to respect who they are and get to know them. And as we get to know them, we learn from them. And the more we learn from them, the more we cut each other slack and the better we are just building stronger relationships with each other. That's
Yeah, there's
key.
empathy, it's emotional intelligence, it's grace, it's all of that. I've not heard about this book. I'll link it up in the show notes for you guys if you're curious about that. Again, find that over at thesimplifiers.com. So tell me, who is one person in your network, somebody that you know personally that you just feel is up to brilliant things? We could shine a spotlight on them. And who would that be? And you never know, maybe we'll have them on the podcast.
But kind of a mentor for me is a man named Michael Savoy. Michael Savoy teaches at UNT at University of Northern Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually not sure how much he's teaching these days. They made him provost over the Frisco campus
Hmm.
of UNT, but he's a person that has been around, done a lot, seen a lot of things, and I just highly value his opinion. And when I'm trying new things out or having a new idea for a program or something like that, I'll get together with Michael and just say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And he's
Hmm.
got the perspective where he's formed his own companies, he's built companies, he's sold companies, and he's that thinker. Where me as a connection person, I tend to be a little bit more emotional.
Mm.
And Michael has that logic in spades. He's a jungle cat. He's actually a jungle cat bear which makes him a tiger. And by the way, I'm going to offer. I don't know if you want to include this, but we've got reports that I have done on all the sub animals. So
Mm.
based on your primary and your sub, so I'm a horse first and a bear second. That makes me a Clydesdale. If I were a horse and a jungle cat, that would make me a thoroughbred. Or if I were a horse monkey, I would be a Mustang. I've developed the reports that are between 15 and 17 pages long that are excerpts from the book. Not that I'm telling you not to buy the book, but you don't have to buy the book. Send me just send me your results of your quiz. And for everybody on the Simplifiers podcast, I will send them that report that we normally charge something for, and I'll send them that for free because
You're
you ought to
super
have that.
kind. Yeah, I
It's
think it's again, it's interesting to dig a little deeper, get a little bit more awareness about yourself or others. And again, in the show notes, we'll have the links for all of this. You can find it over at thesimplifiers.com. So I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for people, and yeah, that's what a horse would say. But the thing, yes, but the people like you, and I just met you when you came to our SHRM conference in April, quite a few months ago. But uh, wonderful to have you there and connect. And now we're doing this podcast. And I'm going to be associated with you and have a connection with you for the rest of my life. And hopefully
Aw.
that's a lot of years in the future.
For both of
And
us.
yes, for both of us. And the one thing I believe that, life doesn't end at death. And the one thing we take with us, I think, is our relationships and our knowledge. So to learn as much as we can from other people and to associate with other people, that's one thing I'm really, really grateful for.
I am too, Scott. Thank you so much for saying that. So, someone somewhere is listening to you and I right now, and let's say that they're a people leader. They've got a big team and it's a lot of conflict, and they just don't know where to begin. What's one thing you could whisper into their ear right now just to encourage them in this moment?
Respect others for their own unique personality and understand that the conflict is only there for a moment, but those relationships are there for years. And if you can get past the conflict and create a stronger relationship by understanding each other, those people will be around longer, will solve the turnover, will solve the disengagement. We create a healthier society when we understand and when we cut each other some slack.
Mm, amen to that. 1000%. Scott, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Mary. I appreciate being on.